Even if it's $1 million acquisition, $1.5 million acquisition, a lot of individuals feel like it's out of their reach. But the way the SBA allows us lenders to structure loans, it really isn't. There's a lot of buyers out there, but there's also a lot of selling going on right now too.
Yes, there are a lot of buyers. I would say there's a wave coming, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities to buy businesses over the next 5 to 10 years of people getting out of the game and they don't have family that wants to buy it.
Startups with Stu is a podcast for anyone living or wanting to live the startup life, either as a founder or a team member. Your host, Stuart Draper, was a 9-time Inc. 5000 honoree before age 40. This show dives deep into the exhilarating world of entrepreneurship with guests that are seeking advice from Stu for their startup or business owners that want to share their entrepreneurial journey. Listeners always walk away with actionable ideas of what to do to take their startup to the moon. Startup life can feel like a roller coaster ride. And with Startups with Stu, you're likely to turn your roller coaster ride into a rocket ship ride. Get ready to uncover the secrets to startup success from visionary founders and savvy investors who've transformed groundbreaking ideas into thriving ventures.
Welcome to the next episode of Startups with Stu. This time we're going to be talking about SBA loans for entrepreneurs. We have with us a very special guest, Mr. Craig Sherle. He's a VP at Idaho Central Credit Union, and he's going to be teaching us today.
ICCU, they're just friendly. They care about your business. They care about the community. I can't say that enough.
Having someone like ICCU in our corner provides us a lot of comfort, knowing that they'll help fuel our growth strategy.
We just started with a product called Preferred Pay. I can go to bed knowing that tomorrow morning there's not going to be an unauthorized debit out of our account.
We've been impressed with the responsiveness of ICCU.
ICCU makes banking easy on us by being here.
I can't wait to learn from you, Craig. Thanks for joining us.
Stu, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited.
So, Craig, what is it that gets you excited about SBA loans and coming on a show like this?
Just to talk about it, I can ramble on for hours about it, but just to work with small business owners and people that have their dreams. One of the things about SBA lending, this I think is just different than most any other type of lending, is it's storybook lending. People have a story, and I love to hear them. I love to hear where they came from, what they're thinking, what they want to do, and to see if there's something we can do to help them get there.
Every listener has a story and they go, yeah, I have my story. I want to write my story, but I get stuck. And one of the places that's so common for founders to get stuck is with the money. And you're the money guy. So it's going to be fun to talk about this. Before we jump into the money though, 25 years you've been working with small businesses. How long have you been at ICCU now?
So I've been at ICCU for 5 years, but I literally got into SBA lending straight out of college. So didn't know what it was, and became an underwriter with a company that is long past called the Money Store. And it's kind of neat, even 25 years later, to see individuals who've sprouted out all over different companies that have started from the Money Store. And so, I've been just grinding away, helping small businesses for that amount of time.
That's so cool. So specifically doing SBA loans, you were mentioning you started doing that with ICCU in 2021. What is it that is so rewarding for you in doing that work?
One of the coolest things is just to drive down the road and just to see these small businesses or businesses that have popped up from being able to get an SBA loan. This program allows individuals to be able to chase their dreams, right? And not to romanticize it too much, but it makes it possible that they can either buy a business, start a business, or help their business to grow. And I actually love telling stories, or even seeing the small business owners out in public, at games or what have you, just to see how they're doing and how they're growing. And it's fun to be part of the community like that.
Well, you mentioned it's fun to be a part of the community. ICCU is a massive part of the community. You can't walk in probably anywhere in the state without seeing their logo. And that's not just because they paid to get their logo in there. It's because they are donors at every level, helping in so many ways. I first got my experience with ICCU working with their CEO, Kent Oram. He helped us start up a new program, financial literacy, where they are sponsoring for every high school in the state. So every student in the state of Idaho has a chance to utilize the Stu Kent Financial Literacy Program. Such a neat thing that ICCU is doing, and credit unions in general. As I've worked with ICCU now, and Stu Kent has now worked with dozens of them across the country with ICCU as a key leader. They've always been a leader across the nation, by the way. And I'll talk more about that in a second. And maybe
Right.
Craig can add to what I share on that. But man, Idaho Central Credit Union now has, last I heard, Craig, you guys have passed like 400,000 member mark. Is that right?
Stu, we're actually about 679,000 right now. And
That
so we
is
just keep
mind blowing.
and we just continue to grow, and to your point,
That makes you guys among like one of the biggest ones in the entire nation, right? That's your top 20 probably at least.
Oh, I think we were just told that don't quote me on this, but I think we're number 11 right now. So we continue to grow. And as you know, the announcement of our expansion in Arizona. And so that's going to be fantastic for us is we're going to be able to, take our culture, take who we are into another state. We're all very excited about it.
Eastern Washington, you guys jumped into it, like 5 years ago, and now to go down in Arizona. I love hearing it. That's fantastic. Congrats to you guys.
It's fun.
So you're running this team. You're the VP of the SBA loan program there. You're doing work in anywhere you've got a branch, you guys can do an SBA loan. Is that right?
Yeah. Anywhere we have a branch, we have membership. There are times that we can do it out of our state. But it depends on our membership. And so right now, Washington, Idaho are our main focuses. And as I mentioned just a second ago, Arizona will be coming up here pretty soon. And that's just for the SBA. So in our department, as you mentioned, really, we did SBA loans before, 5 years ago, just kind of dabbled in it, got really serious about doing them January of 2021. And I've just been building a department presence and just getting the word out there about doing more and more SBA loans.
So as far as the highest level explanation of what an SBA loan is, why they exist, for the listeners that are like, SBA, they've said that like 7 times. I only know about the NBA. What's an SBA loan, Craig?
Right. Okay, 30,000 foot view. Best way for me to describe it is, commercial lending, most commercial lending has to have some type of security, right? It's got to be secured by some type of, whether it's real estate or what have you. And then there's C&I lending. But the government came in and said, hey, listen, all of you lenders out there, we want to provide you a program that allows you to be able to do these loans that might be a little bit more riskier, that may not be fully secured with some collateral. And we will promise to repay you 75% of your loan balance, right? And that's just one program. That's the main program, which is called the SBA 7A program, right? There's other programs out there as well, but the mothership is that one, okay? And so
let me make sure I get that right. Let me make sure I understand. I'm following you. So you're telling me that if you lend $100,000 to, let's say it's a new laundromat, okay? They're buying all the machines, you're helping them buy the machines, and they stink. It doesn't work out. They go out of business. The government is telling you in advance, hey, because it's a riskier type of loan, you guys may not want to do it. They're just getting things started. If you'll do it and they fail, we'll back them at 75%. We'll bring you back 75 grand, even if the founder can never pay you back. Is that right?
Yeah, that simplifies it, but a smaller loan like that's 85%, right? And so at the end of the day, the SBA says that. So you have this umbrella that we'll call the SBA, and this is their statement of operations.
SBA stands for Small Business Administration, right?
It does. Yeah. For everybody listening and watching right now, it's the Small Business Administration. And so So they come out with initiatives, and they have a couple of SOPs for all of us lenders to follow. And we call them guidelines. These are our guidelines. And to make sure that we can get this SBA guarantee if needed, right? And so it does. It allows us to do riskier type loans that are not fully secured. That maybe it's someone that's looking to start a business or someone looking to acquire a business that maybe doesn't have direct industry experience, and we're just relying on cash flow. We really look at the 5 C's of credit when it comes to doing an SBA loan. And it just opens the door for all of us lenders to have some type of security of repayment. Now, I'm simplifying it because it's a big process to go collect on that, and SBA does check our work and so forth, but it makes it available to all of the new entrepreneurs out there and current business owners.
Mm-hmm. I just wish that younger in my career, I had a better understanding of what an SBA loan was and what it could do for me. I remember my own personal frustrations as a tech founder. Had a hard time. Banks, I went to talk to a couple banks, and it just didn't make sense for us to work together. Talk to us about the types of businesses where SBA loans are a good fit.
That's a good question.
And where they're not.
Yeah. Technology businesses were actually really tough, and in some cases are tough. So I'm going to actually push the pause button really quick. And so you have the SBA, you have that umbrella I talked about, which is basically their guidelines for all of us lenders to follow. But then you have each individual lender's own commercial policy, right? So they also got to follow that. So that's kind of what differentiates one lender from another. Is like, what is their appetite? What does their portfolio look like? What does their concentration look like? So there have been a tech-focused lender out there for you at that time. You just said no, right? That was SBA backed, okay? And so most of what we see, though, are individuals that, they're a good cook and they want to start a restaurant, or they want to start a secondhand clothing store, or they've got this great idea that they put on paper, they wrote it out, it pencils out, and they just need some seed money to just get it off the ground. Most of them aren't thinking about Fortune 500 businesses. They're thinking about, hey, I want to do this for my family, for my legacy, and so forth. And it's a lot of work to start up, as you know, Stu. And so they come to us with their dream, their idea, and we talk to them. And we talk about lending scenarios, but we also talked about, have they thought through all of these different things? Have you thought about what it's going to take to start this business and to do this business? It's actually a fun process.
Yes. So as far as this process goes, how do I, if I'm a founder, what do I do to prepare myself for the process? I think the process is scary. I think for a lot of people that have an idea, they get afraid of the process, of the steps and the time that could take to work with the bank versus just trying to get started and go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it really just starts with, how have you prepared yourself first and foremost, right? How are you taking care of your own personal living needs? Are you taking care of your debt? Are you getting yourself in a good position? You don't need to have a lot of money to get an SBA loan, but you need to be in a good position to where that you can afford to maybe not have an income, because startups, a lot of times you don't have that income right out the gate, right? So we look at that. What have you done as far as managing? Have you taken on leadership roles, or have you just worked somewhere, right? What have you learned about it? Even to seminars, classes, stuff like that. How have you personally prepared yourself to lead and to build, right, a small business? And then there's actually institutions out there that help these entrepreneurs put together the business plans and think through the projections and so forth, that can help them take this to a bank and say, hey, listen, I put a lot of thought into this. I'm ready. Here's what I look like. You can go to the Women's Small Business Center is one place. The SBDC, which is found, I believe there's one in Pocatello. They're found usually at universities. And then there's the SBA has a group called SCORE. So individuals can go to any one of these 3 locations and get some help in taking their dream, their thoughts, and putting it on paper and making it understandable for a lending institution.
It's so
Hope that makes
neat
sense.
that these resources exist. Yeah, it
yeah.
totally makes sense. It's so awesome that these resources exist, where I get disappointed sometimes in how little people know about what does exist. But then I find so much hope in America when I see an immigrant family that comes to the U.S. They hardly speak English, and they get something started, and they find a way. I was like, for example, let me give you an example. I started selling alarms in college door to door. Hated the job, by the way, but I learned a lot from the experience. And one of the things that kept standing out to me was how many homeowners with large, really nice, expensive homes didn't even speak that great of English, but they knew enough, and they got themselves around the right people, got the right resources, and they were able to start a pool company that constructs pools. And then they made more money when they figured out that they could charge monthly for services of coming back and checking on the pool and cleaning the pool and selling the chemicals for the pool. I just love stories like that. And it's neat that you guys have the ability to help people like that. Can you share a cool success story of a business you guys have been able to help that it's been fun to watch them go and grow and win over the years?
That's a really good question. We actually, without giving away too much, had a gentleman come to us. He was managing a local restaurant, and he wanted to open up a cookie franchise, right? And he just felt it, and he didn't want to do it in our town. He wanted to do it in a couple small towns. And going through the whole process with them, he was, he had a knowledge on running restaurants. He had a knowledge on, controlling, his inventory and so forth. And he had prepared himself personally, with leadership and so forth. And it was really cool because we helped him open up 2 locations in 2 different towns, and those just flourished. They just grew. And he really only owned them 3 years because he got so big that someone came in and paid him a lot of money for his work that he did. And then he took that and he's working on another bigger project. So it's cool to see him kind of like grow, right? And one of the things about SBA is really good about getting you started, right? And the goal is to get you to be more of a commercial client, to where, there's a lot of different products, and the banks are just and credit unions are just like wanting to have you as one of their customers. And the SBA is for growth companies to help you get there. And this is a good example of that. We also had a lady come to us about doing e-commerce. And she had found a business that was in the eastern United States. And she had some leadership, but this, you got to know a little bit about e-commerce. And she knew a little bit about it. But what's been neat about it is we've helped her to get that business. And she has since bought another one and looking to buy a third one. And just to watch her kind of keep growing and her knowledge and her understanding and just to lump a lot of individuals. Some of my favorite loans that we do in helping our members are the ones that are employees at wherever, they've been there for 5 years, they've been there for 10 years. And because of the way an SBA loan can be structured, it gives them the opportunity to be able to buy that when the owner is ready to retire, right? Or for whatever reason. And we've done a lot of those over the last 4 or 5 years. And it's neat to see that, they've worked hard, they've saved what they could, and with what little they had, they were able to buy, this business and keep it going, and that business is still thriving in the market. And so it's fun to see that. And so when you asked me about success stories early on, that's one of the things we see when we drive down the street. It's pretty cool.
That is so cool. I think for, a dental practice, it's common that the dentist gets older, decides to start bringing on a partner that's graduated college so that partner can buy them out. It's a natural transition. If it's not to a child, it's to a partner or employee. So that's a cool natural transition. I love that you said this one's for the employees, because I would say this episode is for that person that may be in their 30s or 40s and said, maybe I missed the boat. Maybe it's too late to become an entrepreneur, or I never have come up. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I've never come up with the right idea. Well, as Craig's pointing out, you don't even have to come up with a new idea to be an entrepreneur. There are different types of entrepreneurs. There's the franchisor model. There's the full fundraising VC tech startup kind of model. But there's also this model where you're buying someone else's business and they've already got a lot of things set up and in place. I would imagine, Craig, by the way, that it's easier for you guys to approve and get a loan done on an existing business with existing revenue versus on a new business. Is that right?
Oh, you're 100% correct. I mean, to be able to look backwards to move forward, like if you look historically, and this business can support not only the debt, but your own personal living needs, and it's got those trends that you can analyze, it's a lot easier. Sometimes people get the mindset that a startup, because you don't have history, that it's a lot easier to get those through and get those approved, but that's not true. There's a lot of work, a lot of questions, a lot of thought that goes into them. But when you have a business that's being acquired, you've got history, it makes it a lot easier for the lender to get their arms wrapped around it, and then to look at it and just say, okay, well, is this a good fit for this individual? And will it continue to have that success? And so we're actually seeing so many acquisitions over the last few years, especially since COVID. I will say this: there were a lot of owners that the strain of COVID, they're just done. Maybe they've got some fuel left in the tank, but COVID took it out of them, and we're seeing a lot of acquisitions right now. And the thought is even if it's $1 million acquisition, $1.5 million acquisition, a lot of individuals feel like it's out of their reach. But the way the SBA allows us lenders to structure loans, it really isn't. There's a lot of buyers out there, but there's also a lot of selling going on right now too.
Yes, there are a lot of buyers. I would say there's a wave coming. They call it, I'm not the one that coined the term. I don't know if Cody Sanchez coined the term. She wrote a book called Main Street Millionaire, and she's a big advocate for buying a business and the power of finding someone's business. The silver wave she refers to, and that others have referred to, is all of the boomer generation getting to retirement age and needing to sell their business. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities to buy businesses over the next 5 to 10 years of people getting out of the game and they don't have family that wants to buy it. So if you are 30 or 40 and you're like, I may have missed the boat, I may have missed my opportunity. No, even if you're 50, you can still get into the game, and SBA loans can help you get in the game if you haven't saved enough to get the financing you need to do a deal. So if you go to bizbuysell.com, you can find businesses that are for sale. Usually they are small businesses. Usually they're mom and pop shop style. Often they're owner operator setup, where if you buy it, you're going to have to run it because the current owner is the one running it. But do you have that scenario, Craig, where people come to you guys and they say, hey, I found a business I want to buy on bizbuysell.com? Does that happen?
Oh, it happens a lot. It happens a lot. They'll come to us, or we'll even have maybe the broker that's selling it give us a call and say, okay, hey, I've got a buyer, I've got a seller. Take a look at this, see if you can finance it. BizBuySell is probably the most popular one that you just mentioned. I highly recommend most businesses that are for sale end up on there, right? And so it's a great place to start your shopping if it's something you're thinking about doing. And then once you find one and you take a look at the numbers and you do your own personal analysis. Is it a good fit? I mean, at the end of the day, is it a good fit for you and what you're trying to accomplish? Then you start talking to us. But you touched on something, Stu. It's got to be owner occupied. It can't be investment. And that's one of those guidelines that SBA has for us. So you have to have some active part in running that business, and it can't just be completely passive.
Yeah.
But I will touch on this as well. I'm going to touch on this too. Is I was reading somewhere, and I can't remember if it was in Forbes or something like that, but it was breaking down different retirement plans and different avenues for individuals. And acquiring businesses was one of the top 5. I think it came in at number 5. Our SBA loans are only 10 years amortized, most of them, right? If you think about if you were to buy $1 million business and you had it for 10 years and you didn't do anything to grow it or to make it worse, technically it should be still worth that, But again, there's a lot of variables involved with that. But if you're entrepreneurial and you want to work hard at something and build something, acquiring a business that's already out there is a good way to take something and help it grow.
So what are some things you've seen that have made it not work out for an SBA loan for someone? And this can be like in getting qualified for one, or also in like they got an SBA loan and then it didn't work out. I'm sure you've seen both scenarios. Yeah. Also, although I'm sure as good as you guys are at what you do, it's not very often. But talk to me a little bit about that.
There's a lot of variables that go into an SBA loan. It's not just us as a lender. There's so many things that are out of the buyer's control and even our control, whether it be the seller changing their mind, whether it's landlords dealing with franchises, environmental reports, valuations, and so forth. So when it comes to actually finding the right business for yourself, find one that you're passionate about. Find one that you have that you feel is a good fit for your skill set, and you can't have fear, right? I mean, there could be something that's going to blow up, your opportunity, but there's always a way to get around things. Most of the time, the ones that don't make it are usually ones that are undercapitalized, or it's one of those variables I just mentioned, like a landlord might become difficult with the new owner, or like again, attorneys, appraisals, environmentals, all these things are out of your control. But for the most part, I would say we're seeing a lot of healthy businesses right now, and we're doing more acquisition financing right now than any other type of lending. Acquisition
financing is the number one. Yeah. If I were in that boat, if you are a listener that's in that 30 to 50 year old range and you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur and haven't done it yet, either become an employee of a business where the owner wants to sell and doesn't know who to sell to yet, and make a deal with them, especially if they'll sell or finance it. And if not, then start looking for businesses that are for sale and make a good relationship in advance with Craig Sherle. If you're in Idaho, at Idaho Central Credit Union, you need to be working with them. They're phenomenal. By the way, love the mobile app for ICCU, and the private banking service is phenomenal. Shout out to Steve Seamers, who is super helpful for me with that. But definitely very happy with the work we've been able to do with Idaho Central Credit Union, and highly recommend them. And Craig, thank you so much for coming on the show to share how SBA loans can help a founder. I'm sure people will have more questions and some will want to reach out. How do they get in touch? What's the easiest way for them to start the process of getting in touch with you?
Well, what they could do is they could come into one of our branches and just let them know that, hey, I've been thinking about a business. I hear you do SBA lending. And then at those branches, they'll put them in touch with one of our loan officers. We have loan officers assigned to all of them, and they're very skilled. That I would say that's one of the things that differentiates us is we have a really seasoned team, and you need to know the ins and outs of SBA. So for anyone looking to buy a business, start a business, I would start there in one of our branches. Okay.
Yes, I love it. Stop in. They've got branches all over the place. The green logo, you can't miss it. You can't forget it because they are marketing geniuses. Okay, as we close, this is something I've noticed about Idaho Central Credit Union. Well, I mean, I haven't just noticed it, I've read about it. ICCU has been like employer of the year in the state of Idaho, ranked number one of best places to work. They have a culture there. And you mentioned that you're going to bring that culture to Arizona. Like, what is it in your mind, now that you've been there for years, that makes ICCU so different and so good as an employer?
I've been in a number of places, and I will say this, we practice what we preach, and there is a heavy focus on the employees here. Our culture is really big in the sense of, our leadership takes the time to understand what's going on within the institution and try to make things better, right? Try to make our environment more enjoyable. There's still expectations that we need to hit, but it's nonstop trying to find ways that we celebrate the wins and focus on successes, and just kind of basically, there's a saying that I learned a long time ago: love each other up, and it starts from the top here, and you can feel it all the way throughout the institution. So you always hear the word culture thrown around, but what does that mean? Here, it's an active, living thing to where they're always trying to improve our culture.
Well, congrats to Brenda Worrell. Brenda has done such a good job of carrying the torch. Kent Oram for decades was the leader and ran the show and did such a good job of building that culture. And it seems like Brenda is just continuing to carry that torch. Congrats on everything you guys are doing at ICCU. And I can't wait to hear the story from the first founder that says, or entrepreneur that listens to Startups with Stu this episode and says, oh yeah, I went and talked to my branch, and I went to Biz Buy Sell. I found a business, I bought it, and it all happened from listening to the show. That's what can happen when you tune in. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Startups with Stu. And Craig, thank you so much for being with me today.
Stu, thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.
ICCU, they're just friendly. They care about your business. They care about the community. I can't say that enough.
Having someone like ICCU in our corner provides us a lot of comfort, knowing that they'll help fuel our growth strategy.
We just started with a product called Preferred Pay. I can go to bed knowing that tomorrow morning there's not going to be an unauthorized debit out of our account.
We've been impressed with the responsiveness of ICCU.
ICCU makes banking easy on us by being here.
Thanks for joining me on Startups with Stu. We have big goals to help millions of entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to share it with someone else that needs to hear it, or leave a review. Remember, success is within reach for those who dare to dream big and take action. Until next time, keep pushing forward on your entrepreneurial journey.